morning, and welcome to Career Master at Inside Career Success Show, where we speak with proven women leaders about their careers. Happy holidays. I am so glad that you have decided to join us today. As I've always said, we have this show because it's exciting. We're ecstatic about the women that we get to talk with. And more importantly, it is about the business of leadership, advancing women's leadership. It is also about high profile women, women who are mastering their careers, women who lift others up, women who are in the marketplace, compelling themselves to do the business of business every day. And so, like all other shows, we have a phenomenal woman leader with us today. And I'll introduce her in just a moment. Before doing that, I always take the time to tell you about Career Mastered Magazine. And so, Career Master Magazine is a quarterly publication that has been in the marketplace since 2018. We launched in New York City as well as Detroit and Charlotte. And it is about paving the way for the next generation of women as well. And as you know, we also talk with men allies. And so this show is inclusive. Today, I want to introduce you to a phenomenal woman that I've had the pleasure of meeting right here on LinkedIn. And so I know that LinkedIn is a good place and a good space to be to meet professionals. And I would like to bring her on now and introduce her. Good morning, Monica.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm excellent. Thank you for joining me today. And I'm excited that our conversation is going to be, I think, very engaging. As you know, I told you digital platforms are often interesting. I just got a message from LinkedIn, and it says, we're streaming to LinkedIn. This may be an issue. We're trying to let you know, and they're going to keep looking at it. So I'm going to ignore that. But the deal is that we have the broadcast is also streamed to Facebook, to YouTube, and then we can also upload it again. So let's just get started. I'd like to take the moment, if I could, to formally introduce you. And I often say, I am not going to try and memorize your background. I'm going to read just a bit. So today, Monica Hammond is Vice President, Business Government Customer Operations for Verizon Business Group. As a member of senior leadership team, Monica oversees the customer experience for Verizon's $12 billion wireless and IoT services. She leads a large global operations team that provides wireless support and solutions for the global enterprise, public sector, and small to medium business customers. Monica is responsible for developing strategies and implementing customer experience solutions that transforms operations through digital technology, culture, and processes to deliver business-based outcomes. Now that's a mouthful, Monica. But I also know that besides doing what you do every day in your day job, you also make a part of that uplifting women
Mhm.
and supporting women. So, first of all, congratulations that in 2020 you were awarded the National Association of Female Executives Woman in Excellence Community Champion Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
then on top of that, Verizon saw fit to give you their highest award, which is the Verizon Credo Award. So congratulations. And
Thank
as we
you.
talk today, I'm expecting that you will share with me how you engage with women and girls. And so let's just hop right into this conversation. I'm excited about it. And I am definitely going to ignore what's going on here because I tell you, technology and StreamYard, they got some work to do, but we're going to keep it moving. So, for all you listeners that are on LinkedIn or trying to find it on LinkedIn, if you're with us, I think Kyla and Aaron and Lori, as I see you here on the StreamYard dashboard, if you can give a message out to your team that is looking for this on LinkedIn to let them know that LinkedIn is having a problem this morning, to ensure that they log on into Facebook, and I know a lot of people don't have it, but if you do, or YouTube, you can catch us on YouTube under Lisa Wicker. It would be Lisa Wicker. So if you want to do that, you can do that there. In the meantime, for those that are here with us in the studio, just listen up because we're getting ready to chat. So, Monica, with this impressive career that I just introduced to our audience, and as a part of the Verizon senior leadership team, please share with us part of your background, your story. Tell us your story.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here and, and talking with you. We just have such a similarity in background and how we think about women. And thank you for all that you do, particularly in championing women. So, I mean, just a little bit about me and my background. Obviously, I've been with Verizon for about 17 years, which I always joke feel like dog years, right? When you're moving up the ranks in terms of leadership. But prior to Verizon, I actually started my career in telecommunication. I started as a customer service rep, right, fresh out of college at Sprint, and fell in love with telecom. I don't think I sought out telecom at the time. I just needed a job, to be honest with you, Lisa. So I was like, all right, I'm from Virginia Beach. I went to school at Virginia State and just said, hey, I was going to go to the DC, Maryland area, the DMV, and got a job up here through one of my sorority sisters, fell in love with telecom. So started at Sprint, worked there for a few years, then moved to a company called Quest Communication. And that's really where I would say that I started to sink my teeth into thinking about leadership, thinking about the roles that I wanted. I learned that the technical acumens about telecom. I learned what's considered the wireline side. Today, everybody only knows wireless, right? Because that's the only thing they know and breathe. Like I think about my kids, they only know wireless. They don't. When our phone rings, they're like, "What is that?" Right?
Yeah.
So, I started to really, fall in love with the telecommunication and the technology world. Stayed there for about 10 years, moved up in rank, started supervisor, manager, the traditional trajectory, went into director, became, senior in leadership. Took a buyout. I had my kids. My kids were about 3.5. I was really conflicted about being a stay-at-home mom, which I'm not cut out to be. Shout out, kudos to all the stay-at-home moms. But really was conflicted. It was traveling a lot. My husband at the time was traveling a lot. We were pretty much exchanging the kids at the airport. So left Quest, stayed home for about 5 months. I said, hey, let me see what stay-at-home mom thing is about. Certainly not for me. My kids are safer with other people.
I love it.
Right. And so I actually sought out Verizon. I really wanted to get in the wireless side of the business because at that time that was the sexy new thing, right? And people were getting into wireless. And from there, I've just, moved through the ranks. I came in leadership, right in leadership at Verizon, moved into various positions. And today, I lead a global organization. So that's a short version of my background.
Well, I tell you what, sometimes we just have to be prepared for when opportunity knocks.
Yes.
And obviously you were. Tell us a little bit about your role as the Verizon Business Government Customer Operations Leader. What does that entail? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot, but for those of us that are not familiar with the industry or what you do, just let us know.
Right. And that's a mouthful, right? That whole title. So basically, I'm responsible for a global organization that really manages the customer experience for all of wireless. So, but primarily on the business side. So for small business customers, for a large global enterprise, for the federal and government and state and local government sector, and our IoT, which is think of that as Internet of things that connect. So the machine to machine world that's really taken off. So my team is really responsible for everything customer experience. So from the time you say, yes, we do the implementation, we're responsible for getting out, the devices, the equipment, we're responsible for ongoing services, the technical aspect. So the customer experience, the digital, making sure that, you're set up on digital, that we're pushing digital. So really what I like to say, Lisa, is I solve problems for a living. I take complex problems and my job is to simplify them, right? And your interaction with Verizon Wireless. So large responsibility, massive revenue responsibility. So I think of it as, my team and I, which I have a phenomenal team, shout out to them, are responsible for really the experience of our wireless program for all things business and government.
Wow. Well, we're talking to you today about leadership at the peak, and you are at the peak of leadership in a multi-million dollar, billion-dollar conglomerate, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when we're in those positions, and you and I've talked about my career as well, you kind of get used to it and you take it for granted, but it's not an everyday opportunity for everyone. And
Right.
and with that territory that you're in, um, becomes there are challenges, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges to your success. And I know we've all had them. I probably could name 3 or 4 right off the bat. But for those that are listening, I want them to understand that, the success looks good, but there are things that we go through. And part of that is mastering your career, right? So
Yeah.
what are some of the challenges, perhaps?
Yeah, I think, it's funny, Lisa. I always say leading is not for the weak at heart, right?
True.
Because, it's a huge responsibility. And I wake up every day knowing that I'm responsible for tens of thousands of lives, right? So for the thousands of people that report to me, they have families, they have, people that they take care of. So I'm really responsible for their livelihood. And so I take leadership serious, right? And our CEO likes to say leadership is a profession, and it
Yeah.
really is, right? And you have to think through it. I think the challenges that I face are what's happening globally in the world, right? I mean, one of the things that tested me as a leader is just the pandemic, right? No
Yeah.
one had ever led. There wasn't a blueprint to go to, right? And
Yep.
how to navigate people through that. But I think that it's about making sure I have the right people, that I'm developing our people, that we are staying up with technology and what is happening. The world is moving fast. When I think about my career, where I started and where I am now, the rate of change is tremendous, right?
Hmm.
So it's about
Hmm.
making sure that I, my team, and staff are up to speed on what's happening, that we're forward thinking on
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
right? I'm always in the business of trying to save jobs and create new opportunities for people. So, my challenges are really about being strategic, right? And making sure that I'm in front of what's happening, not behind what's happening.
Okay.
So I would say that's the biggest challenge.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So, as we talk about mastering your career, oftentimes there are detours and pivots. When did you get a glimpse of your future career? In other words, the one that you're experiencing now. And I know you told us a little bit about how you came into being, but somewhere along the way, what did you see yourself doing?
Okay, interesting enough, and everybody who knows me will know this. I think I saw myself in fashion, right? If I didn't have this job, I would be in New York in fashion. I absolutely love fashion. I love clothes. I love designing and styling, all of that stuff. But that's not what happened. I ended
Yeah.
up in technology, which I absolutely love. I think God put you exactly where you should be. And I would tell you, as I started to lead my first leadership job, I don't think I could see myself in leadership younger. So I didn't wake up saying, oh, I want to be a vice president, because I didn't see that growing
Right.
up. I
Right.
grew up
Right.
with a single mom. She was like, listen, go to college and get a good government job, right?
Yeah.
So I far exceeded her expectations. But when I started to get into my first leadership roles, I said, okay, I love this. I could do this, right? And I started to think about, how do I advance, right? How do I connect? How do I get a mentor? How do you get sponsorship? So I think around mid-management, I said, okay, I really feel like I can exceed. I
Yeah.
have something greater to give. And so that's, Lisa, when I started to see myself thinking about roles such as vice president and roles such as real senior leadership. So around mid-level management, I
Okay.
started to really get the bug for, I feel like there's more.
Wow. Well, you mentioned your mom just now. And so take us back to your hometown. Tell us about your community and your family. What was it like, as a little girl? And how did your parents, your mom, and the community around you provide that richness, that foundation for you to be successful?
Yeah. So, I always get emotional thinking about my mom. So my mom, shout out to Evelyn Miles, she has no technology. So I'll have to show her this. But she was a single mom raising 3 kids. Fortunately we all do well. My sister and brother do very well, but I always tell her she was a visionary and didn't realize she was a visionary.
Okay.
So we were rich in love and poor economically,
Yeah.
financially. But my mother always tried to move to places where it may have been the hood of the community, but we got the best schools, right? So she really had in her mind that education was the key out. And she always had this mentality of you are not where you live, right? So she really put I would say that the seed in my siblings and I that we needed to move on, we needed to go do greater things. So I really had a huge church community. Anybody who knows my mom knows that, she has her Sunday morning hat on and we're off to church. So I grew up with a rich community, a great big extended family. My mom is one of 6. So I would say I had a ton of support and people cheering on that there was nothing I couldn't do. And so that's kind of the beginning of it. And I always say that my mom is the original hustler. So like she is like, we would win. If I was in Girl Scout and we were selling cookies, she sold the most cookies, right? We were selling church dinners. Like my mom really taught us about hard work, ethics, and really about to whom much is given, much is required.
Right.
So being financially poor, we were doing community service, we were helping in the church. So that really started, I think, the crust of who I am. And I still have that mentality today to whom much is given and much is required. So
I love it. I love that. I love that motto. And in fact, one of the things that we're talking about here is even subtly is leadership. Your mom was a leader. Okay. And at the end of the day, you followed her in that footstep. So I was going to ask you what inspired you to become a VP, but I can tell right now it goes back to mom. And even though she might not have had the title even in her mind at the time, she had already put the seed there for it to harvest. And you've actually, shown the full bloom of that. And so let's talk a little bit about how hard was it breaking into senior leadership? You and I both know in the corporate hallways, navigating and mastering your career, we're doing that every day. And so I tell people when I say, career mastered, it really is an evolution, right? Wow. And it doesn't just happen and you're never finished. You're mastering constantly, you're navigating. And so I would like to know what you think about this. We hear stories all the time of people who try for years and never make it to the senior leadership. And then we hear people who overnight made it, right? So is it that that person's in the right place at the right time sensation, or do you think that those who pay their dues, opportunity meets preparation? In other words, was it in the right place at the right time, or paying your dues in preparation, you get it paid off? Or is it both?
Yeah, I would say it's both. Right? Because we've seen a lot, and you've been out here in your career, you've seen a little of both, but I would think it tends to lead to me, preparation meets opportunity, right? For me, that's what it was. I do think that I have been helped by mentors and folks that have, pulled my coattail and taught me. Well, I always say they teach me the game a little bit, because there's a whole corporate philosophy of how you think about an executive. What are some of the things you need to do? How do you get noticed? What are some of those things? And, I tell my team all the time, hard work is just what's expected of you, right? It's what do you do to get that edge? So, for me, it was about trying to get additional projects, right? Yeah. Trying to master my skill. I work on my skill. I still do to this day. Yeah. I go to, I take classes. I have an executive coach. I mean, there are things that I do to continue to master my skill, because I'm not done. So I love career mastered. I've mastered some things. Yeah. But I think it's about doing a good job, but also about all those extras, right? And also about people who pay it forward, because I got to tell you that I tell people all the time, your career is usually people talk about you when you're not in the room, right? So it's not just sitting for an interview saying I had a great interview, but it's about all those things you do every day. I tell my team, you interview every day. So absolutely, I think it's about, having mentors, sponsors, and all of that. It's about being strategic and being thoughtful and intentional about what you do of your career. And working hard. So to me, those three things are what really,
and I agree with everything you said. The thing that I probably would add, and I learned that later in life, is not who you know, it's who knows you.
Absolutely.
And we used to always be told that, it's who you know. No. It's who knows you. Because when you're not in the room, they need to know you, right? And so let's talk about gender equity. I know we're still at this pace and this place where we're talking about this subject. And I thought by the time I retired, we would not be having this discussion, right? And here we are today, still talking about gender equity. Part of what my philosophy is that when you are in the senior leadership roles or in the position to make decisions, we don't need to talk about gender equity because women will be in those roles, right?
Right.
And that's what I see. Like when we have the opportunity that women have been afforded to master their careers to be the head of it. Okay, we're not talking gender equity. You don't have to worry about the pay because we should be putting those people in those positions and
Right.
paying the people what they deserve, right? And
Right.
so while we're still having the conversation and recognizing that it remains at the forefront of many discussions, where did you find your mentors and supporters? And you mentioned a little bit how they had helped you, but where did you find them?
Yeah, so I would tell you that I have an eclectic bunch of mentors. So I have the folks internally that, you kind of gravitate towards. And I always tell people, it's hard to go to someone and say, can you mentor me? Because I think mentorship is a relationship, right?
Yes, it
So
is.
you need to bring something to the table, right? As
Mm-hmm.
we connect. But I found obviously a few at work because it was important for me to understand, particularly the Verizon landscape or the Quest landscape, wherever I was,
Yeah.
people that can help you navigate, open doors for you, but also people who are going to be honest with you, right? And pull your coattail to say, okay, Monica, it's great that you have an opinion, but you don't have to dominate the room,
I
right?
know.
There's a different way that you got to be able to articulate your message. And hey, you came off a little strong here. So or here are the things you need to be thinking about if you want doors open for you. So I really, reached out, connected with people there. I also have mentors outside of Verizon that just know who I am authentically down to who I
Wonderful.
am. And I have great group of women friendship circle. My circle is really, really small, but it's the best any woman could ever ask for.
Yeah.
They're probably on here right now. So shout out to Ken, all of those people who support me. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, and I think mentoring comes in different form. Mentor isn't about somebody has to be above you. It's
Yeah.
about people who are knowledgeable, people who understand you. So I seek them out. But Lisa, the other thing I would say to people, particularly women, is mentors are great, but you got to get sponsors.
There you go.
Sponsors are different. Those
That's
are the
right.
people who you may not talk to all the time, but
Hmm.
they pick up the phone and say, hey, you need to hire Monica Hammond, right?
Right.
She is
Right.
great. Or they pick up the phone to make those calls and they actually have clout and they have the respect of senior leadership. Those things are really important as you move in senior leadership, is having sponsors and people who that will open
You're
for you.
so right on. In fact, in our publication, Career Master Magazine, we're running a series on the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And
Mm.
so those articles are very, very good for those that may not know. And while we're talking, I just want you to know, thank you, Kyla, for joining us. Aaron, Lori, all of your team. They're here with us, Denise, Jen, Kim. So thank you for joining the conversation. And again, as technologists, I know you guys know from a digital world, anything can happen. So hopefully you'll be able to give some comments when we replay this, and that definitely will happen. So my team will upload this to make sure it gets to LinkedIn, and you
Okay.
can constantly do that. So in the meantime, many people, Monica, look to actually find their purpose to impact in this world. And as you and I shared a little conversation before we started, I am in my purpose walk right now, and this feels really good, right? And so today, however, you are paving the way for the next generation of women because you're actually in the job, as I understood your background, you are working with women in your organization. When did you realize that you could make an impact in the lives of people?
Yeah, so I would think I was sharing this with you earlier. So I've always had, my mom always said, "To whom much is given, much is required."
Yeah.
And as I moved up the ranks, I realized it gets incredibly lonely. All right, and so it's a male dominated industry, particularly as you move up in the senior ranks. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had some wonderful males that have mentored me because males have to be a part of
Absolutely.
the equation for
Mhm.
particularly for gender equality. But I just feel though that, I had a mentor and she used to say to me, and this used to bug me to know, and hey, I'm grooming you for when I leave. And I said, well, to myself, well, why do I have to wait till she leaves? Right?
Yeah.
Why it should be room
What you
for
say? Like
everyone at
snap,
the
snap.
table.
What?
There should be room for everyone at the table. So for me, I kind of went on this quest of how do I get more women? How do I help women? Because what I also find, Lisa, with women is we're a bit more timid in going for those jobs, right? Women still are the primary caretaker of the children. So a lot of women don't want to take that risk. And, they're a little afraid of, how do I get to that next level? Will that impact my family life? All of that. And so I begin to really pour into women to encourage them to say, hey, I am a mom.
Yeah.
I'm a mom of twins. They are sane. They are great. Shout out to Erin. That's the
I
person.
love it.
They are fine and they're better because I am a working mother.
Yes. Yes.
And I started to realize, okay, it isn't just that women aren't doing it. Women are afraid. And so what about if I created a development leadership program and I focused on women and I poured into them all of the things that I think are the keys to success.
Awesome.
My org today is 60% women.
Amazing.
Even though the 40% men, shout out to them, they're awesome. But it's 60% women, but it wasn't the same as we moved up the ranks, right? Women started to fall off. So I began to really pour in, and that's really just been my passion, Lisa, around getting more women into leadership, but also starting young. I know what you're doing with the young girls. I just love that. I belong to an organization. I'm actually on the board of directors of Envision Lead Grow, which pours into middle school girls. And seeing those young girls and what they can achieve. And when you're told early that you could be a CEO or you could own your own business, it changes your trajectory. So
absolutely.
I feel that. And also I feel the responsibility of being the mother of daughters. So, having my own a daughter, watching her grow, I'm telling you, she's going to be a powerhouse. She's awesome. Her level of confidence versus mine at that age, night and day. So that's my calling. I'm walking in my purpose and I love it.
I love it. I love it. And I like the passion. I feel it. I hear it in your voice. And so that's why you are good at what you do and you're inspiring to others. And so inspiration is important for success. And if you could invite 4 people from the past or present to dinner, who would that be and why?
Right. So I have pictures behind me, so people will probably figure this out. So the first would be Oprah. Everybody knows I absolutely love Oprah. I'm just fascinated. She is the epitome of struggle and watching her success. Right. Michelle Obama, I love being the first African-American first lady, being married to the first African-American president. I'm fascinated by women that are the first or just had a tough journey. Sojourner Truth.
My goodness.
She is before her time being an activist for women and for African Americans. And last is actually really, really personal. I would invite my biological father. He died when I was almost 4, so I don't know him. And so there are sides of myself that I feel are a mystery, that I know my mom, that I don't get from her, that I know comes from that other side. So I would have loved to have known him and understand better who he was. So
right. So what would you talk to Oprah about?
I would talk about that success. Like, how did she open those doors? Was she fearful? What were the things that she thinks are the key to her success? Now you hear about them openly because she has a whole network.
Yeah.
But I think that that's never enough time to really understand somebody. So I would really want to understand her journey, particularly what she's overcome. I mean, she's overcome sexual abuse. She's overcome, all kinds of stuff with her family. So watching her and listening to her, to me, it's just totally inspiring.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But you're inspiring. What would you think your superpowers are?
I get asked this a lot, Lisa. I always struggle with it. I think my superpower is connection. I think I connect very well. Like that is, and I am that connector for if it's at work, if it's in my personal life. So I think maybe connector, the ability to connect with people.
I like that because when you connect with people, then you build community. And I believe fully in the power of community. I mean, you can't do things alone. It takes more than you to get the things done that need to be done in this world. So I like that superpower.
I'm intrigued by people, Lisa. I ask 1,000 questions. I drive my family nuts, but I'm always trying to figure out, what is somebody thinking? I'm just intrigued by that. So I have a huge passion for connection and understanding people.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And again appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today about leadership and your success and your inspiration and just what you're doing in the marketplace. Like I say, this show is about women compelling themselves to do the business of business every day. And sometimes we can take it for granted that we just wake up and do our jobs, but other people are watching, Monica. And we should always be aware of the fact that distance observation is just as important as if you were supporting or mentoring someone one to one. So we always have to be on our cue. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so in a world of conformity to the norms, it can be difficult to fit in. And how do you continue to navigate to your truest self? Because I just wrote a new book called Capacity, by the way. Do my little commercial, and it's really about women being true to themselves at every place that they join a table or even in their life. Okay, it's really about that place where you have a voice, and no one can impose limits on that voice.
Yeah.
And so, how do you stay in your authentic truth?
Yes, that's a great question. And Lisa, I'm definitely going to get your book and read it because I think that we're just now, I feel like being your authentic self is more of a recent phenomenon because I think when I came up, it was be this person. So I think that I am now kind of living in my authentic self, getting in a real comfortable spot of how do I be authentic, but still navigate this world, right? Because I tell people sometimes being your authentic self isn't great, right? Because
That's true.
you got to figure out how to navigate, right? How do you balance that? And I think that honestly, being a mother helped me that. I must say that I have my daughter, and it's a huge shout out to her. She is like all things opposite of me, and she really pushed to be her authentic self. And it pushed me to figure out how to be accepting of her being her authentic self. By the way, she's pretty awesome. But also it made me think about, am I being my authentic self? So I think about being authentic as in being true to who I am, giving everything that I have, but also just balancing that, right? And so it's been a growth process for me, Lisa. I'm happy to say, even in leading, I've grown, right? I used to be kind of like, let's get it, let's do this, a little tougher. As time has gone on, I've softened that approach a bit. I've thought about the word that I'm focused on is grace. How do I give people grace? How do I balance that? So I think that I'm still a work in progress. I think who I am is just who I am. I think people see me the same, whether they work for me, work with me, or just absolutely just know me.
Awesome.
Friendship. So that lets me know I'm being my pretty authentic self.
Well, I agree with you. I think there's a difference between authenticity and just being open to the place where it's not the way you present it for people because it's none of their business, right? And you don't have to bring everything to work, right? and you don't have to say everything in life that you're thinking. And that's not saying you're not being yourself. It's just that there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
And I
always tell people, don't confuse authenticity with just letting go, right?
Just letting go.
It's about being true to yourself, being thoughtful, not trying to be someone else. Because earlier in my career, I probably had the imposter syndrome, right? Because you're trying to figure yourself out. But I feel good about where I am at this point in my career. And I feel good about discussions that we're having, Lisa, and what you're doing for the community, because so many people don't give back. And I see, your book, the show, everything is about pouring into women. And so I'm all for it. So
I have had a blast and continue to have a blast. And I have just enjoyed our conversation. And it's all about making sure that we are providing an advancement for women's progress and leadership. And so I'm going to tell your team, Kyla, Lori, Denise, Kim, everybody that's with us here in the green room, hey, you have a great colleague and she's doing her thing. So hold on to, I say her jacket, her skirt tail, whatever, her hand, because I think that she gets it. And so let me say that in parting, I'd like to have my guests tell us, and I consider it the career mastered moment, what advice for women who want to master their careers, what quote or what would you leave women to think about?
So it's funny, I just got sent a little block here from, for the women's group. We have a women's group here, and everybody knows I love Michelle Obama. So she has this quote, and I'll leave people with this quote, and it's in front of me every day, and it says, "When you work hard and done well and walk through the doors of opportunity, you do not slam it shut behind you. You reach back and you give other folks the same chances that help you succeed." And that's what I'm trying to do. I want everybody to have that chance, so I would leave women with, you have a responsibility to reach as you climb and to open doors for all the people coming behind you, beside you, or in front of you. So
Yeah.
what I
Wow,
do.
that's powerful. That's powerful. And we're going to leave with that, Monica. And I'm going to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Continue being great, continue opening doors, continuing also being authentic, but more importantly, leading in a way that others would want to follow. And so I've enjoyed meeting you. I will be in touch with you outside of the conversation today about a number of things that we're doing, but more importantly, have a great holiday.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank
Bye
you.
now. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed today's conversation with Monica Hammond, Vice President at Verizon, a phenomenal woman. If you don't know her, follow her on LinkedIn. She definitely is someone that I'm sure all of us can continue to learn from. And as we head into the holidays, I have great news to tell you. And I just wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things. The Career Master Women's Leadership Summit is heading to Charlotte, North Carolina in March of 2022. We're so excited that this year, outside of the pandemic, we've been 2 years on virtual only. We're going to do a hybrid, and we're taking the conference, the summit, to Charlotte, North Carolina, where we will honor women and we will also celebrate women. And the theme for this year's conference is engage, creating the possibilities for the future. And we chose that theme because we are ready to engage again, and we are ready to ensure that we are creating as many possibilities for women, whether they're in entrepreneurship or whether they're still mastering their way through corporate hallways. We plan to have a number of companies available for women to relate to, from a supplier diversity standpoint to venture capitalists, to banking and investment. If you're that woman that wants to be connected, you should be here. And you should make sure that when we open the doors for registration, which will be in December, you join us as we continue in our 8th year of the Women's Leadership Summit. And then I have this to share, and that is we have just actually launched on yesterday the winter edition of Career Mastered magazine. On the cover is Jasmine Crowe. If you don't know Jasmine Crowe, hey, run on over to her profile on LinkedIn. And also her company is called GoodR out of Atlanta, Georgia. This woman is feeding souls and wasting less. She has developed an app where she can get food to those that are hungry and time that they can be fed. And her relationships are with major restaurants throughout the nation. She is doing a marvelous job, and one of the few African American women who has gotten tons of investments from investors to ensure that her company is successful. So Jasmine Crowe, kudos to you. I am so glad that you're gracing the cover of this month's magazine. If you're looking for a stocking stuffer, Career Master magazine can be found on Amazon.com, on careermaster.com, or issue.com. You can locate this magazine and ensure that a woman that you know deserves to have the content, because we do more content than advertisements in this magazine. It's about leadership. And last but not least, I would like to share with you that we are putting a special edition out this winter. It's called the Career Mastered HBCU I Am Her Winter Edition. Now, the reason we're doing this is because of, one, my background, but secondly, the rich heritage of HBCU institutions we must continue to keep in the public eye so that we can ensure that education is available to all. But more importantly, we advance women's leadership. And this magazine is going to present a complement of HBCU women leaders on college campuses. They wear the title Miss, M-I-S. Miss is their leadership title because they have been chosen by their peers to represent their colleges during homecoming. And so we're so pleased that we are working with HBCUs now to ensure that we advance women's leadership in the marketplace. And so I want to share with you that we're excited about what we're doing here at Career Master Magazine. And if you are interested in connecting, follow us on Career Mastered on LinkedIn. We have a private Facebook group of close to 1,500 women that have voluntarily joined to follow us. Or you can follow me at my public profile, Dr. Lisa Wicker, on Facebook, where there's close to 5,000 followers. And more importantly, just get in touch if you are looking to mentor girls, because we always have a place and a spot in our heart for you because you're helping to advance the next generation of leaders. In the meantime, thank you. And we're so glad that you joined the show today. We'll see you on our next show where we'll have Miss Erica Bolden from Mercedes-Benz USA with us on next Thursday. We'll see you and happy holidays.